No, they must have to push a button. Maybe it's the computer itself that is on low.
Ah, and here comes Marge. Maybe that'll be better. Marge, we can't hear Mike.
Yeah, now turn yours off. Put your mute on. And then you check. Hi, Martha.
Hello. You're still doing some reverb, Marge.
Well, this morning. I'm sorry. Yeah, we had trouble with his. Oh, but I turn yours off completely.
I'm so sorry. A calculator fell off my shelf and
Oh, wow.
perfectly hit the off button on my computer. Let's try this again. Okay. Pull up. Where am I? All right. All right. Take two. Nothing. Everything is pushed off. Nothing should fall right now.
Well, it was perfect timing. It couldn't have been more perfect when you said, let's let someone else talk. And then
That's going to be my new technique. When I don't feel like talking about something, I'm going to say, and now will, and then I'll just pull the plug on my computer. All right, here we go, gang. Take two.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Now, Mike and Marge still need to turn off one of their computers.
I'll teach you the other one.
1941 by a Texas artist named Otis Dozier, who actually grew up in Texas. He was born in Forney, raised in Mesquite on a cotton farm, knew he always wanted to be an artist, always sketched outdoors. So during the Great Depression, when it was such a terrible economic crisis, under Franklin Delano Roosevelt's New Deal program, there was first called the Public Works of Art Project, and that then was succeeded by the Treasury Department's section of painting. And it was a means of commissioning artists to employ artists to work during such harsh times. And so what this division would do is create competitions for artists to submit sketches for murals to decorate public buildings, primarily post offices. And the idea behind it was to create a mural that celebrated the local industry, the local culture. And he looked at the fact that under the New Deal program, there had been funding for orchard planting and so pecan planting. So it's kind of this optimistic outlook of better times are ahead. This family is succeeding and so will you. So it was an uplifting message to all those who entered the post office. The post office that Dozier created it for had become a bank, a branch of the Worthington Bank, and the bank is potentially, the owner of it is thinking of selling it. So there was that potential loss of the artwork. And it was something that we knew we wanted to maintain and keep the artwork in the community. There were some tack holes in the mural at the top from where a frame had been attached, and along the bottom it had started to detach, but basically it was in excellent condition. Very distinctive brown nicotine layer on the surface, in addition to a grime layer, because it was next to a window. The window was on the left side of it. And over the years, of course, they'd open the windows before air conditioning and have fresh air come in, so all the pollutants from the road came in. The mural is attached to a wall with white lead adhesive, and that made it a little more problematic because white lead is toxic. So we had to take more precautions in removing it. We had to wall off the area where we were working. We had to wear suits and gloves and some protection when we're removing it from the wall. We were able to slip in a handmade spatula. At one point we had to go to Home Depot and find some long rulers that we ended up fashioning, and something that was flexible and thin that we could put underneath between the mural and the wall. There are conservators, Claire Berry and Peter Van den Mortel, were instrumental in restoring the work. So it actually arrived to them. The best way to travel it was to wrap it on what's called a sonotube. And so it came with a protective tissue on it. So the painting was rolled to the Kimball Art Museum, and they unrolled it face down on a padded surface or cleared surface and proceeded to remove the residual adhesive. that remained on the, and then it was strip lined at that point. So an edge was attached to the back side of the painting, and any tears or holes or distortions were flattened and mended. The whole process probably took at least a month, 7 weeks or so.
There are, of all the murals still existing, there's 106 murals in Texas that were created under this government program. The rarity of being able to have one in the museum is unique.
It's mostly fun. It is really fun. Is to take something that you know is a treasure and bring it out to close to what it was originally. It's just a real joy.
So that's a much better explanation of the history of the artwork. Here's the painting. It's 44 by 144 inches long. So you saw it hanging on the wall, how the type of space it took up. But I thought for changing seasons, I'm sure pecans have started falling if you have any pecan trees in your yard.
Hey, Peggy,
Yeah,
how did it get from the Kimball to the Amon Carter Museum?
on a truck.
Okay, I mean, why did they move from the Kimball to the Amon Carter Museum?
So the Kimball has a really nice painting conservation lab.
Oh, okay.
We have a really nice photography and works on paper conservation lab.
Okay.
We also do not have a paintings conservator on staff. So Claire Berry, she's retired since, was the head conservator for paintings down at the Kimball. I mean, she's very well known in the industry. And so often, and I think we still do, have our artworks conserved down at the Kimball that are paintings. All of our we have a wonderful works on paper and photographer conservator both on staff here. So sometimes they might send work up here to get conserved as well, but we had like a reciprocity between the conservator. So, and they have, you can kind of see, this is Peter. He is doing the in painting on the edges once it had been put on the canvas. But you can see that there are big windows behind him. There's a lot of really wonderful natural light in that conservation lab, as our lab is too. So that it's natural lighting is very, very helpful when going in and conserving. And we use other lighting methods too to see.
What difference it makes from that.
Yeah. So then here too, and you can see this was when it was still in situ at the bank. And this is when so we had a conservator who helped remove it from the wall, the woman that was speaking with the glasses in the blue.
Yeah.
She's a contract conservator we had from Dallas come. So her specialty was doing mural removal, things like that. So she removed. And then once it was brought to the Kimball, then Claire Berry and Peter stepped in to do the painting conservation of it. So we had different experts along the way. And then when the artwork moved, we just laid it in a truck, and we had our couriers bring it up and then bring it into the building.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, it's much bigger than I thought when I first saw the picture.
Yes. Yeah. I don't have a picture of it in situ, but you saw it
Lying on the floor. Yeah, it was huge.
It's really big. And then even on the wall that it hangs on now is kind of right when you walk in on one of our entrances. And it's hung up high deliberately because that's how it was meant to be viewed. It was not meant to be viewed at an eye level. So there are some distortions because you are meant to be viewing it up. And when we saw it in the bank too, or what once was a post office, some of those details too don't matter because you're not looking at it up close. So there's in keeping with the spirit of how the artwork was meant to be viewed, we deliberately hung that artwork up high.
What was the name of the tube? I tried to look it up and there wasn't anything to look at.
Sonotube.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like a lot of construction type thing. I mean, it's just a big drum,
Okay.
but that can roll. So you want to move the artwork as little as possible.
Mhm.
I mean, which makes common sense, especially one that, even though it was in really good condition, there was still damage to it with some tearing and some with the stretching and stuff. So, but now it's on view. It's been on view since we hung it, and it's now a little piece of Texas history that didn't go away with the selling or demolishing of the building.
This was in the same era as the WPA, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
This was essentially an offshoot of that whole thing. This is a government commissioned artwork. And so Shirley said there were 106 government commissioned murals painted in Texas
Mhm.
during that time.
Beautiful.
So yeah, so this is just, it's a hopeful scene, it's a happy scene, and it was meant to be celebrating this part of Texas. So some of you might even have pecan trees in your yard. Some of you might collect pecans. So, it's still relatable today on some level.
Mhm. Some of us cook with them.
Yep.
Yep. My goodness.
All right. So there's a woman on staff who has a big tree in her yard. And so every year she ends up gathering all of them, and then they spend like the rest of the year cracking all of them, and she freezes them, and then you get your pecans for like a holiday gift from her.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Nice.
I know it's a lot of commitment.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're switching gears. I've gotten you some more fall colors.
That's beautiful.
I was gonna say I heard some pretty immediate reactions. So Yetta's thinking it's beautiful. What are other people thinking?
Oh, it's very seasonal, very fall.
Very fall.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What to you is the screams fall?
The color.
The color.
Color of the trees, yeah.
Yeah, it's in, as you can see by the title, Eagle Rock, New Jersey. So this particular artist was a member of the Hudson River School, and we've looked at a Hudson River School painters before, but it's that very kind of glowy, idealistic landscape type of painting, and a lot of times they're really massive paintings. If you go into a landscape gallery in an art museum, you'll almost always see a Hudson River School one. Beardstott was a big one, a big artist, if you know that name. Thomas Cole.
Mhm.
And so anyway, here, this artist was part of that group, but this was this is only 10 by 20. So this isn't huge like some of those massive landscapes that were typical of this group. So he's not as well known as a lot of the painters that we're producing. He's also the only artist who was from the Hudson River Valley area, interestingly enough. So what's really cool is I'm gonna switch screens for a minute. We're part of the Google Arts and Culture Project. And so years ago, we had a photograph taken of our artwork, and it was one of the Google Zooms that you can go in extremely close.
Wow.
See some of the detailing within the artwork. I mean, so much so you can see the cracking of the oil.
Mm-hmm.
You can see brush strokes. So even though you wouldn't see it, it's on view right now, you wouldn't see it at, a massive scale. You do have on your computer, you are able to really zoom in and get closer than you would be allowed in the gallery to observe some of the details.
Mhm.
That's a lot of detail on such a
It
small
is, yeah.
picture.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
really is. And it's really beautiful when you walk in the gallery, even though it is tiny, it does catch your eye. The colors are just
Yeah.
very tranquil, very calm.
Do you know
And so-
why there's a chair in the picture?
I think this was a lookout point. It still is, I believe, in New Jersey. This area is a little northwest of Newark. And so it was a really nice lookout point across the river. You would see Newark City. So I think that's just a natural, something you would have seen in the natural setting of it.
So
Okay.
I noticed, Peggy, that he's got a little detail in the pictures, but he still didn't put faces on the people.
No, and it doesn't read that way. That we're looking at it the way we probably shouldn't be looking at it, by zooming in.
Okay,
Yeah.
When you're looking at this artwork, those people are barely a couple of inches, if
right,
that. So
right.
that detail, he gets enough of the person that we don't need those details.
Okay. But by the way, I like that the way of painting. It saves me from drawing real faces sometimes.
Uh-huh. Faces are hard.
Yeah.
They are.
So
Faces
so there's like some buildings in the background there. Is that just a settlement or something?
Yeah, I mean, it's not far from Newark. It
Oh,
wouldn't be far
Newark. Okay.
Newark. It wouldn't be far from Hoboken, and then on the other side of the river would be New York. So it could be,
Okay. Thank you. I understand now.
yeah. I mean, and this was in the 1860s too. So that whole part of the East Coast was pretty built up. I mean,
Oh,
not the way it
really-
is now, but built.
that really puts it in historical perspective then.
Mhm. Yeah. But this is such, it just is calming. It's gentle. It's gracious.
Mhm.
It just feels very peaceful.
Mhm.
Which is, all right, so now let me go back to the slideshow. So yeah, that Google Arts and Culture is also, it's a lot of fun if you ever feel like, we only have, I think, 38 artworks that have that deep dive. But you can really look at some cool details. Okay, so now we're gonna go to something that's a totally different vibe, but very similar color palette.
Right, you're good to go. Place
So
that.
this is Georgia O'Keeffe. Have we looked at this one before? I don't think we have.
No, I
I
don't.
don't think so. No.
Okay, I couldn't remember. I'm starting to lose track of what ones we've seen. This is typically on view. It's not on view right now. It's on loan. But this one is a showstopper when you see it in the galleries. It's not massive. It's 36 by 30. So it's not huge. And it's in a very simple white frame. You can kind of see the white frame edged along. But it's white. It's entitled White Birch. So the title helps us. I mean, and you could probably figure it out too, but what are you seeing?
Pretty.
Well, go ahead, Don.
I'm sorry, I just said branches of a tree.
Yeah, branches. What do you,
Yeah.
what do you figure out?
And then the yellow leaves probably.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
It reminds me of a heart.
Before you said that, I saw flowers, like exotic flowers,
the yellow or the white, which part would be the flower?
the yellow,
The yellow.
like, and maybe the white was the stamen, is that what you call
Okay, well, you're right in that it's a natural plant, something you would see in nature,
it?
but it is a white, and she painted those types of plants herself in other artworks. But here we're just looking at the white birch. Don, were you starting to say something, or Yetta?
No, not me.
No, I didn't, but I was thinking you see little leaves, which
Mhm.
is normal birch leaves. Is it because she has painted the sun behind it? Do you think that it's so yellow?
So this is another one where, the trees are changing, and she's painting in Lake George in the upstate New York. So it's probably the actual color of the tree, the leaves changing, like you might see the aspen leaves changing in the Rocky Mountains or something like that. This is probably pretty, maybe heightened a little bit, but pretty true to the color she would have seen, which was what attracted her to drawing or to painting the birch tree. She and Alfred Stiegler, who is a very well-known photographer, of the time in New York City, and had a gallery of avant-garde artists and put a lot of artists on the map, including Georgia O'Keeffe. This was his wife. And so they would go up to his family's house up in Lake George, and she turned one of the old barns into a studio, and was just very much inspired by everything she saw in that part of the country. And so they would go up a lot in the fall, and this was just, there were white birches in that part of the country, and so she would just paint what she saw. But it's a combination of both. You knew it was a tree. Granted, the title always helps. Doesn't always, usually helps. You could tell that there were, the trunks and the branches, and then some hints of leaves. You guys have pointed out little shapes, but it's really abstracted. Yeah,
that's what I was gonna say. It's white birches are not pure white like that. They have marks on their branch, on their trunks. So it looks like it's abstracted for artistic purposes.
Absolutely. I mean, and she was really good at distilling things in nature down to basically the essence. So yes, you're right. Some of those, the markings, the brown tearing or crinkling of some of the bark isn't there, but you knew exactly what type of tree she was getting at. If it weren't a birch, I would have guessed an aspen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's so beautiful. And so she had very, there's always the criticism that her artworks represent female genitalia and all this. And she's always very adamant at saying, please don't put your Freudian views on my personal experiences with these plants and nature. So get your mind out of the gutter, people.
That's right.
I think it looks like a heart.
Well,
an anatomical heart.
Yeah, with aorta and veins and stuff like that.
Yes. Reminiscent of a heart.
And it's very zoomed in. We're not seeing the totality of the tree, but we're seeing enough to know that it is a tree. All right, so I got to end on a black and white one because I got to end on a black and white one.
Well, okay.
Yeah, hold a gun to my head, but here's Tell Sky Autumn. And even though it's not in color, it still feels like that autumn crisp to me. Do you feel that way when you see this?
Well, yeah, because the leaves are falling from the trees.
The leaves and the clouds, that fall cloud, that late afternoon feeling. I don't know. It just feels very fall to me, even though there's not one orange or red or yellow leaf to be seen.
It seems like almost winter to me. There are hardly any leaves on there at all.
Okay. Taos is in the mountains, so they probably do lose their leaves a lot faster than other parts. But we've looked at photographs from this photographer before. He was both a commercial photographer and an artistic photographer, but he had success in both, and people knew his artworks. And then he was mostly producing between the 40s and the 70s. He was based in Denver, but bounced between Denver and Taos. And then his mental health started becoming a little unstable in the 70s, and then in the 80s it got worse, and then in the 90s he was institutionalized. So no one really knows, like, his work was very beautiful, but then because he kind of fell out of practice, he wasn't able to get jobs anymore in the 80s. His name sort of fell out of popularity.
So Peggy, I mean, even though it's black and white, I can kind of imagine that sky is really deep blue that you see up in the mountains.
Yeah, and you can tell it's that sunny type of fall day where
clear air.
Yeah,
it's not dusky.
No.
It's a very striking photograph.
I agree with you. So those are our changing seasons. I know we're still in the 90s here, but I feel we're getting a little bit of a taste of fall in the air.
Getting there.
We're getting there. We're far from there, but we're getting there.
Yep.
Next week, we are looking at bows and arrows. So
All right.
Bows and
hunting.
arrows, okay.
I'll have to remember to tell John that. He loved that one.
Oh, good.
Put
All
it
right,
on your
so
phone right now.
I will see y'all next week. With this weekend, we have our annual party on the porch. So we have a country musician coming and performing. It's free. And so anyway, you might see us on the news this weekend. If you're looking for something to do, come to the museum. So
Have a great time, Peggy.
All
all
right.
right,
Yeah.
friends. Thank you. I'll talk to y'all next week.
Thank you, Peggy.
Yeah,
Bye.
bye.
Yay, yay, Peggy. Woohoo. Well, why don't we say look at what's coming up and then say goodbye to this, and then we'll go over to Fifth Street Cafe. So don't go away. Okay, Peggy's going to do this 2 more times today at 11:30 and at 1:30. Tomorrow, we have flipped our Tuesday, Thursday for this week, and we're playing bingo all day tomorrow. 10:30, 11:30, and 1:30. And just because it's so easy, Friday, we're having pet therapy with Kate and Jet. I'm assuming that Kate is the person and Jet is the animal. I don't know. We're going to find out what pet therapy is on Friday. So there you go. Just a little hint of what's coming up. Yes. And I'm going to stop the recording.